In my quest to reduce originality by regurgitating overused YouTube tropes, I've made list videos, question videos, advice videos, so what's next? A how-to video. How to do everything. Why limit ourselves? Let's just do it all. Starting with the basics, here's how to wiggle your fingers. You take your fingers and you wiggle them. Next up, how to make a glass of water. Put the glass under the faucet, pull up the handle, add food dye for dramatic effect. Enjoy! How to wiggle your ears. You put your fingers on your ears and you wiggle them. How to drink water. Pour the water into the mouth. Swallow the water. How to apologize. How to move on without acknowledging your gnawing sense of regret. How to put your pointer finger in your ear. How to put your ring finger in your ear. How to put your pinky finger in your ear. How to smile. How to do a terrible how-to. How to drink water. How to say that you know it's your fault and you want to make it up to them and you understand if they don't forgive you, but you think you should at least talk about it, but not actually say any of that to the person to whom it matters. How to make a how-to about making a how-to about making a how-to about wiggling your fingers. Simply explain that you have to explain that you have to explain that you take your fingers and you wiggle them. How to feel like you're just repeating yourself incessantly. Simply take your fingers and wiggle them, and wiggle them, and wiggle them. How to get trapped in an unhealthy spiral of thoughts. Tell yourself that apologizing is a sign of weakness, and your guilt is also a sign of weakness, and if you're so weak, you can't possibly bring yourself to apologize, and wiggle them. How to distract yourself with repetitions of jokes that are no longer funny, and wiggle. How to say sorry. You just say it. But sometimes it's not about how to do something. Sometimes you know how to do it. You know you should do it, you know you want to do it, but you feel like you can't do it. It's like jumping off a rope swing. You know it's safe, you know there's a net down below, but you're high in the air, and you just can't jump. How to jump. Just take 1 foot from the platform, and wiggle it.
I give myself very good advice, but I very seldom follow it. Will I ever learn to do the things I